This is the G Podcast with your host, Tommy B.
Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome to episode 193. This is our bonus session. And of course, I'm Tommy B. We're going to do something a little bit different. We've not done this. I've wanted to do something like this before. And, we've been having these conversations over the last few weeks. And honestly, since I've been doing the podcast, we've had conversations about things that are kind of edgy in the world. Recently, we had the Chatterbait senator, Susanna Gibbons, who actually had sex on camera and solicited, got some money on Chatterbait with her and her hubby. And we've also had conversations about the music business, the movie business, and how whether or not it's edgy or over the edge. And full disclosure, I came out of the Prince generation and, the Two Live Crew generation and the Lil' Kim. So for me, it's not as bad. It's just about access, whether or not, the underage folks have access to it. But neither here nor there. I want to get the perspective of somebody who kind of knows the business or understands delivering that kind of content. And Wildflower Phoenix, I'm gonna give it up to you for coming on.
Hello.
You get the applause, and you'll get the air horn too. So
I appreciate that.
All the way on the West Coast, and again, this episode is for mature audiences. If you can't stand the heat, step away from the stove. But I'm gonna start like this. I mean, tell people what you do.
All right. Well, I am an amateur, not safe for work voice actress. So I pretty much create erotic audio role plays for individuals, and as of late, more so couples now. So any fantasy that anyone has that they want to bring to life, I pretty much create that for them just through audio. So it's pretty much just porn, honestly, if I'm just going to be real. It's pretty much just porn. That's what it is.
So how long have you been doing it?
It hasn't even been a year. It has not even been a year. Okay. I started November of last year, so almost a year. It started off as a hobby, and honestly, it's not something I saw myself doing at all. Seriously, I didn't think about it. How this came about, a friend of mine that is a photographer, well, like Instagram friends, right? But he's a photographer and takes dope pictures, and he's based in Louisiana. And it was just one particular photo. I cannot remember it off the top of my head, but I remember I sent him a message. And so, okay, for those that know me or like my friends, I go in between talking and texting and voice notes. I do all of it. So I left him a voice note on one of his pictures, and it was just complimenting him on his work. And he just told me, he's like, you have a really, really nice voice, right? I didn't think anything of it, kind of left it alone. And then there was another friend of mine that actually does erotic audio role plays. And I left him a message, and he was the one who told me that I needed to do this. Wow. And so I just I've always been into audio erotica, but I just never thought of voicing it,
I got you.
Yeah, and one day I stumbled onto Reddit and found a subreddit called Gone Wild Audio, and yeah, that was the end of that. I've been doing it ever since.
You've been doing it, I guess, you're heading into the first year. What's been the response for you so far?
It's been very positive. It's been very positive. So originally for me, doing this, it's about pretty much being comfortable with yourself, being free. And I feel like the only time people are free is when they're pretty much masturbating, right? When they're just trying to get off. You're not thinking about anything else. You're just focused on yourself, and you're not so much in your head, right? And I think just in general, when it just comes to sex, whether, you've been married or you're just dating or you're just in an established relationship, we all have those little insecurities or even our little desires, but we don't share them with our partner, right? Right. Because we don't know how they're going to perceive it. And we just, because of society, honestly, if you think about it, the value society places on just sex work, right? The things we should be doing, the things we shouldn't be doing. But honestly, who's to say? Like, who's to say?
Let me ask you. I mean, you talk
Sure.
about society, and you heard the conversation we were having about Susanna Gibbons. I think her name is Suzanne. She's anyway. We refer to her, and you know, I don't want to, you know, no shame,
Right.
you know,
Of course.
no shaming. But you know, she is the chatterbait candidate right now in Virginia. I mean, you know, so when you heard that story, what was the first thing that came to mind for you when you heard us talking about it?
Talking about it, honestly, it's, why do people care? I mean, I get why they care, but why are you so interested in her sex life or what she does with her sex life? I feel that what she wants to do with her husband is her business. Now, I do think it is a little naive of her to feel that no one would ever find it, if that makes sense, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's the only thing. I don't think her having a chatterbait channel with her husband, I don't think that would affect her ability to do her job. Why would it?
Okay.
Why would it?
Yeah.
I mean, I know you have different parties that say, oh, well, she's a mother and, you know, she's doing all this thing and she's, you know, people look up to her. But a lot of these voice actors that people don't understand, they're your doctors, they're your nurses, they're your therapists. You just don't have any idea.
Right.
You know? And it doesn't hinder on their ability to effectively do their job. It doesn't. It's just an outlet. That's it.
So how different, and don't, you know, of course, no specifics, but how different is your mainstream life to what you do as a voice actress, and you know?
Oh gosh, I am so boring. I am so boring, and like, so I mean, I'm just home life. So I'm married and I have 2 kids.
Okay.
And literally, it's just home life. I have a small business. I deal with herbal infused skincare and body care products. So I do a lot of wholesale sales for that and just create different formulas for estheticians. And then, you know, my husband and I, we have a lemonade business on the side too. And it also works for the government. So my life is just kind of regular, like everyone else's. It's pretty regular. Like, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I have kids, I still have responsibilities I have to take care of. But for me, this is just fun. This is really fun. And honestly, it's getting to the point where eventually I could see myself just doing this full time.
Really?
Yeah, it's that fun. I mean, I wish I could explain it, but I feel it's one of those things that you have to experience just to fully understand.
So what's the best situation for you? And of course, I'm going to ask the opposite of that. Okay. But if you look back, you know, you're heading to the 1 year. So what's the best scenario that said, wow, I can do this? What got you there?
So, okay. Well, what got me there before that was, so when I wanted to do this, I talked to my husband about it, you know, because if he wasn't okay, then obviously I'm not going to go ahead and go through with this. But he was the first person that made me really feel I could do this. And I say this because, oh gosh, he's going to kill me, but it's okay. I'll explain to him later. But
go ahead.
I'm going to tell you anyway. So it was like my first, I feel like, serious audio that I was going to create and put out on Reddit just to kind of see what the response was. And it was the first time I was dealing with sound effects and everything. So I made him an audio. I always fall asleep before him. He ends up staying up really late. So I made it for him. I said, just listen and tell me what you think. Like, he knew I wanted to do this. So I said, just listen, tell me what you think. And if you're like, go ahead, then okay. And if not, then I won't. Okay. So I wake up the next morning. Someone forgot to come to bed last night. So I get up, I go into the living room. Someone is passed out on the couch. Headphones are still on his head. And just evidence of a really good time just left, like, on his torso, like he just passed out. And
so you tested it at home first.
Yeah, right. And so I woke him. I was like, "So how was it?" And he was like, "Oh, you need to do that." And then So I said, okay. And that's what we're doing.
As a matter of fact, I'm going out to get your artwork right now, baby. We're going to put this together.
No, but he's the one, because honestly, it was a hobby. And then over time, when I started getting requests for commissions and those personalized audios to bring whatever fantasies people had, and just started making a little money off of it. And then my husband was the one who made it seem like, he's like, this is your business, right? And then I just started treating it as such,
Got it.
Yeah, I really thought about it, and I was like, okay, I can really do this. And then just the response in general, the feedback has been great. It's been positive, but it's not just the fact that people enjoy the content or getting off, right? I've gotten messages from people how the audio, like my audios, has helped them through like a rough day, a difficult time, whatever their situation is. It's just been more than I need a release and I'm good and I'm going to sleep.
Gotcha.
For me, and that's part of why I do it. I just want people to be comfortable with themselves, right? And who they are and what they like, and to know that it's okay. Not everyone is going to agree, and that's okay too. Yeah. And I think for me, that's what I try to get across in my audio.
So what was the worst? What was the situation that was just, wow?
So I can say this. I have been pretty fortunate so far not to have anything be really bad. Like, I've heard some of the horror stories with some people where, people find out who they are and their information, or, they end up getting doxxed, or, unfortunately, there's some people that fall too much into the character that it comes off as a parasocial relationship. So they kind of feel they're entitled to that voice actor and their life and who they're dating. So I haven't had some of the horror stories of some artists that I know, but honestly, if I have to say what's worse, it's just getting unsolicited pics, right?
Yeah.
Unsolicited dick pics. And so for me, I don't know, with my audience, I just try to create the human element of it. Just, I know the space that we're in. Yeah. So it's like, okay, if I get an unsolicited dick pic, it's like, I have a choice. Either I'm going to respond to it or I'm not. A lot of times I just block because I just don't have time. But then sometimes, depending on what they say, I will leave a little note and just say, hey, hi, thank you. I appreciate that you like the audio, but you didn't need to send me this, right? And I do that first, and I always leave it in a voice note just so they can understand the context of just what my reaction is. And I say that because I understand the space we're in. I understand why you're listening. I understand what you're doing. I don't need to know that, but it's great. And so once I tell them that, it's usually, they're very apologetic, and they get carried away. And I understand that I can extend grace where it needs to be. But I always let them know, get consent first. Just get consent first. I understand you're excited. Just get consent first, And a lot of the times
they can give you verbal feedback.
Yes, that's fine.
You don't need the physical feedback.
I don't, but it's not just the men, the women too.
Yeah.
The women too. Women are bold as fuck. To me, the women are more bold than the men. Because they send pics too that I didn't ask for. But it is what it is.
So what's the menu? What's your menu? What do you? Your do's, your don'ts. What's on the menu?
In terms of my audios, or just in terms of how I interact with others. My boundaries.
Maybe just the audio, and talk about the boundaries. What do you tell people up front?
So I let people know it's just audio role play. That's all it is. We're just here to have fun. You can let me know that you like your audios, but I'm not here to actually physically role play with you over the phone. Like, I'm not here to do that. I'm not here to sex you back and forth. This is just something we're all trying to do. And then now that I'm trying to make it into a business, I don't have time for all of that. I don't have time to play with anyone that's like my other voice actresses and actors. Like, we kind of bounce ideas off of each other. So I interact with them a lot as opposed to the listeners, I interact with a few, but you don't want to interact with too many, just because you want to avoid any development of some sort of parasocial feelings, you know?
Yeah.
Because that can be confusing. You definitely don't want to do that. But in terms of what's on the menu, I kind of just go with what I like. So there's a lot of kinks that I like, and there's quite a few that I discovered, and I just like to do it all. So anything that's very oral heavy, like a lot of blowjobs, things like that. Someone once told me I had the voice for cheating. I don't know what that means, but okay. So I started doing a lot of hot wife audios, and that seems to be what everyone likes, like being a hot wife. Definitely a lot of couples, though. I'm starting to get couples that really love the hot wife stuff. And I feel it's just couples that have been together for years, like 20 plus. And they just want to try something new, you know? Just something new, you know? So I do a lot of that. I do a lot of cut cleaning, right? Which is just women that like to watch like their husbands sleep with other women. I do a lot of those. And then lately I've been doing a lot of mommy doms, and that's for a lot of the submissive men out there.
Wow.
Quite a few. Yeah, there's quite a few.
So you do you keep everything in balance when, because you've already said, you know, you give them the boundaries, and you know, but for you, as you know, you have this life. Do you keep it balanced personally? I mean, because you're talking about now, I mean, it seems to be very productive for you. And so, you know, you're looking at an opportunity to take it full time, which is good, you know, especially if you like it.
No, it wasn't until I just started my Patreon like maybe 3 months ago. So it's growing and it's doing pretty well, and I love my subscribers, and I love that I have a mix, because the thing is, some people, when they record, like, they brand themselves, right, as they're just strictly like mommy doms, or, you know, or they're goth, or just, you know, just a bimbofied character, right? I love all those characters, but I don't want to stay conformed to just one, because I like to play so many different characters, you know? And I like that because I have a mix of subscribers. So it just kind of keeps me on my toes with different content, you know, so it's not making the same thing over and over again.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, when you hear the criticism of a Megan or Cardi, Janelle Monáe, do you pay attention to the criticism more that you're in this space?
I'm aware of it. I'm aware of it. But I try not to pay attention to it. Just because my thing is, because my main question to people will be like, why do you care so much? Why do you care about, like, for me, this audio that I'm making? But I do understand for some people, there are certain triggers, right? So, like, for example, cheating audios are pretty big. Everyone has like a cheating thing. Doesn't mean they'll necessarily do it, but they like the story behind it. It's not real. It's all make-believe, right? But for some people, if they've been cheated on, you know, if it went bad, then listening to that particular audio might trigger them. And then they just kind of unleash, you know, all the messages. It's like, this isn't right, and blah, 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 blah. And this is what's wrong with women today. It's not real. So, I mean, you know, it's one of those, you just kind of got to kill them with kindness. I haven't really gotten too many negative remarks. I've gotten a few. You know, and then I just say, you know, I get it and I understand. I always say your feelings are your feelings. You should never apologize for them, you know? But it's just role play. And that's all I say. And, I mean, because what else am I going to do? What else am I going to do?
Yeah.
You chose to listen. The only other option is to just not listen.
Not listen.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. But when I hear it, it's just, and you got to look at where the message is coming from, like what person is coming from or who that person is, right? Yeah. Just like, for example, we were talking about the Virginia candidate, right?
Yeah. And
you know how everyone's like, oh, but you're a mom and you're a mother. Moms had sex, right? I mean, my mom had sex. That's how I'm here. That's how my kids are here. So it's like, why are you upset with her for having a great sex life with her husband? I feel like maybe you should be out there having a great sex life too, and maybe you're not, and you're upset. That's how I feel.
Yeah, and you know what? I'll say this about the the music side of things, and we were having this conversation. That's why we were saying, my phrase is, okay, you got chocolate and peanut butter, okay, and sometimes you just want to enjoy them separately, because what you do, what you do is totally chocolate. You know what I'm saying? It's in its own category.
Right.
And sometimes I think when you look at an artist who's kind of a mainstream artist, you don't expect you may not expect certain things, and I think not that I don't. I mean, again, I don't really care. But when you hear the criticism, you to some extent you can understand, because you say, well, okay, who's their audience? You know what I mean?
Right.
And if they have a wide audience and some of that audience may be younger, then, there may be some folks who say, okay, well, you got kids who listen to you. So in your situation, it's totally different, because you're in, you're in that space. You know what I'm saying? You're in the space.
Right, but I was also in the space. I heard you talk about growing up with like 2 Live Crew and all of that, right?
Oh, yeah.
So let me say, like, my father, so I love rap music, period. My father is the one that, whether he knows it or not, kind of turned me on to that, because I was a daddy's girl. So wherever dad went, I was there. Okay, I was 9, 10 listening to Too Short and listening to the Chronic.
Jump in the car.
Right? Mind you, I like the beat. But it's like, it's music, and then I get out and go and about my business. So for me, it was never, the music didn't influence me, but I understand that fear, and I understand that fear in terms of, so my personal experience with that. Remember the Little Kim's album when that came out?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So by that time, unfortunately my father had passed. So it was just my mom, me, my brother, right? A friend of mine had the, back when CDs was the thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Back in the day.
So, back in the day, right? So I had the CD. Listening to it in my room. Headphones on. Mom called me. I didn't hear her. So she comes in. She's like, what are you listening to? I mean, I can't hide it. So I play it for her. Yeah, she lost her shit. Right?
Yeah.
Lost her shit, broke the CD. Mind you, it wasn't even my CD. So mind you, I have to pay my friend for the CD that my mother broke, right? But I understand the fear, because I know my mom. I think listening to lyrics like that, she's afraid I'm going to want to go out and start behaving in a certain way.
Yeah.
And really, that's just not it. But,
Yeah, I got
what are you going to do? But it didn't stop me from listening to music or, going around and finding alternative ways to listen to the music that I wanted to listen to, that I knew she wouldn't approve of, Yeah. So,
yeah.
So when people say, you have to think about the kids, yes, I do think it's the responsibility of the parents too. I do. Is there some responsibility on the parents to talk to their kids? So, if they don't want their kids listening to music like that, then sit down and explain to them why, Yeah. And if you feel like they can handle it at a certain age, then you let them handle it. But, kids are a lot smarter than we give credit for, and they're going to find a way to do something. So it's just, you can do your best to talk to them, to educate them, but in the end, they're going to do what they want to do. And unfortunately, sometimes it's a hard lesson that they have to learn, unfortunately.
Yeah, so true. So how do people contact you? How can people find out more about what you do?
Oh, you can find, my website is really, really long, but if you go to wildflowerphoenix.carrd.co, it has all my links to everything. So my free audios on Reddit, my Patreon, I'm also on the Clio platform. So yeah, there are different links there, Twitter, all of that.
Appreciate it. And I'll make sure it's on this episode as well.
Oh yeah, no worries.
Yeah, but I appreciate your feedback. Thanks for jumping on at the last minute. I said, man, I need a different perspective. I think we've been too hard on these
but you know what?
these situations.
I mean, I listened to the podcast. I don't think you guys were hard, but at the same time, it's just that it's like you never really understand until you're in that space. So it's like once you're in that space, like for example, I am not naive to the fact that maybe one day as my kids get older, they might hear my voice because I do have these audios on Pornhub also, right? So I'm not naive to the fact that maybe one day my kids might hear it, you know? Like right now, so the one thing my husband and I do, we tell them the truth enough for their age, right? Enough for them to handle, because I don't lie to my kids. And I always said, I don't want to lie to them because as they get older, I still want them to be able to come to me and talk to me like they do now, right? So when they tell them, I say, mom has to go back and she has to do, recording. One day my oldest had just asked me, he's like, what are you recording? I just tell them they're just stories, but they're for adults. That's all he needs to know. That's it.
Oh, today they know.
Right, but that's all he needs to know. But that's all he needs to know. Right. So but it's like, for example, he asked me, this is like maybe last year, he had asked me, why is 69 a funny number? Right?
Yeah.
Okay, on the drive home from school, she's like, why is 69 a funny number? And so my first question is,
did you run off the road?
No, I was driving. So like I grew up with a brother, like my brother and I are 10 years apart. My mom wasn't one to talk about that kind of stuff. I've been talking to my brother about this stuff. So I've been prepared to talk to boys about this kind of stuff. Right?
Yeah.
And so I just told, so the first thing is to find out, where did you hear it? Because if you heard it from school, then I have to tell you, your friends don't know shit at all. They don't. That's why your father and I are here. And so he said he just heard it on YouTube. It was just, I said, okay, well, what did they say? Because I need to know in what context he's heard it so I can explain it to him, right?
Yeah.
And it was just a joke, and someone said 69, and it was a giggle. And so this is what I told him. I said, okay. I said 69 is a funny number because it just kind of looks weird for some people. And I said, there is another reason. However, you're not ready to know what that reason is. So I said, if by the time right, but by the time you're 13, I told him, because I'm just going to be real. I said, if by the time you're 13, you don't know and you still have that question, you ask me, I said, I will tell you. I was like, I will tell you. So, my husband will probably tell him before me, but I'm not going to lie to him. Like, he needs to know. Like,
good deal.
I know. He needs to know. So, and it's
so
like,
true.
I'm not going to punish him for asking questions. And I feel that, at least for me growing up, it's like, if I asked that question, I got in trouble. Why? And it's just, it's just, how we were raised, and then how to think about sex, and then it trickles down, and it's like, no, I'm talking to my kids about it, so they need to know.
Yeah. So
they need to know. But that's just how I feel.
Well, Wildflower Phoenix, thank you so much, man.
Thank you.
Educating the people, laying it down. I'm gonna make sure. I'll make sure your links on this podcast episode as well, and definitely thank you so much for the feedback.
Of course.
On the episode, appreciate that. And don't forget, y'all. You can give your feedback to the episode. Go to castropolis.net. Just go to castropolis.net. Hit our people poll, and just leave your message, and I may play it back if it's good enough. If it's as good as Wildflower Phoenix. Don't be trying out on castropolis.net though. Okay. call Wildflower Phoenix.
Look, if they want to try, just tell them to sign up on Reddit. They can just definitely give it a shot on Reddit.
There you go. Again, Phoenix, thank you so much. And hold down, LA. Keep doing your thing, and congrats on the success of your business.
All right, thank you.
And again, I appreciate you for coming on. All right.
Anytime. Let me know. I'll come back. I'll bring some people if need be.
Uh-oh. You heard her.
I have some that were really cool. I have some we're very close to. So just let me know.
Okay. All right. Appreciate it. Take care.
Anytime. You too.
Right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to the G Podcast with your host, Tommy B. The G Podcast is a production of the Castropolis Podcast Network. Thanks for listening.